Hey everybody, I'm Mark from Personal Combat Defense Systems, and I'm going to do a short video today on precautions you can take when using Uber, Lyft, or taxi services. I don't really use these services, but if you have any questions on some of the safety precautions that we'll talk about that are built into the app, you can find all that stuff on those services' websites, and always remember to keep the app updated. That way you know that these services are going to work properly for you in the case that you need them. I went searching on YouTube. I watched tons of videos because I just wanted to find a good one and share it with everybody, and I really didn't. There's a false sense of security when you get in and you confirm that that's the proper driver that's there to pick you up, but I don't necessarily believe that. I think there's a lot more to it, a lot more things to consider. Sure, if you're looking at 5-star reviews, maybe if you're a young lady, you're not going to get harassed, or something like that. But when you're dealing with things like human trafficking and some of those types of situations, it's really easy to have people that within that criminal organization to get these reviews and raise your rating. So that's not really something, that's something to think about. People think these things don't happen, but they do. Another problem is because this isn't so much with taxi, but with Lyft and Uber, because the drivers are subcontractors, the background checks don't include a fingerprint, and law enforcement professionals are saying more and more that without that fingerprint, it's becoming easier and easier to use a fake identity, and that's pretty scary. So you definitely want to think about that. Now, some of the things you can do before the ride to help ensure your safety is, some of them have upgraded services. So what happens is you're going to pay a little bit more, but you'll get, I think they call it Uber Black, and you're just going to get a little bit better quality, a more professional driver. You are less likely to be, harassed by the driver or have weird, uncomfortable things to deal with. Does that guarantee safety? No, I don't believe anything guarantees safety, but accumulations of small things can certainly add up to make you a lot more safe. You definitely want to make sure your phone is charged. If you're going to use any of the tips that we're going to talk about here in a minute, or any of the built-in features of the app, and your phone dies, you're not in a good situation. Another thing is, in your profile on these apps, you want to unlink them to your Facebook. You don't want them linked, because in that case it shows your picture. If you can unlink it and it doesn't show your picture, then the person doesn't know what you look like. I know this makes drivers uncomfortable at times, but they're the ones offering the service, and you need to worry about your safety. In the case of human trafficking, just a human trafficker out there who's driving, the fact that they can't see your picture and they have no idea who they're picking up, that may deter them in the first place from even accepting that ride. And also legally you're really not supposed to change your last name. I'm not sure that you're able to, but change your first name. Especially if you have a common last name, it's going to be a lot harder to search you out and find out who you are if they want to harass you. Another thing, especially if you're going home or potentially to work, is go to a location close to where you want to be. So if there's a gas station or a public place nearby, that's where you want to go, that's where you want to get dropped off, and then if you can, walk the rest of the way. Definitely be aware of that driver. Make sure that they drive away, and when you are walking to your actual destination, keep a lookout for that same car coming back around. Maybe they want to come back for you. I don't know. There's a lot of different situations. Before you go, you want to make sure that there's a friend or family member aware of where you're at, where you're going, and your estimated travel time, and you want to check in with them. And also, there's a new feature on some of these apps. I know, Uber calls it, with my notes here, send status. And what you can do is you can send a link that shows the status of your ride for the entirety of the ride. Now, again, in these videos I was watching, people did take a really big sense of security with this, but and it's a great feature, but the problem I see with it is, all they're really going to know is where you were last seen, or where you were last at. If the driver takes your phone and throws it out the window and turns their phone off, that's really all they know, is where you were at last. So again, that's not something I'm going to put everything into Now, if you do send that status and you send that link to somebody, you want to make sure that they know that you sent the link and that they're actually following you. I mean, there's times where, I'm doing stuff and I don't even see my phone, so if I was the person, you wouldn't want to send me the link and not hear back from me, because then you don't even know that I got the link. I could get the text message an hour later, not even realizing that you were traveling by an Uber. At the same time, like something I talk about a lot and think about a lot is these geotags nowadays, where you can see where everybody's at and where everybody's going. That, in a general sense, is not really a good idea. So when you're done with that and you get to where you're going and you confirm that you're there safe with a loved one, with a friend, turn your location off and quit telling Facebook where you're at all the time. It's not a good idea. Another thing is if you carry a weapon, make sure you can draw the weapon while you're sitting down. A lot of times we train standing up and don't realize as soon as you sit down, this knife or gun or whatever you got, it's hard to get to. When you're in a car, you're already in close quarters. So if you carry mace with you, it needs to be very close to being able to be used, whether it's in your hand already or it's just attached right here on your purse. Make sure that it's ready and you're able to use it. Also, you always want to carry a glass breaker. Those can come in all kind of different forms, where it's just a glass breaker. Maybe it's attached to a knife. I've seen them where they're attached to pepper spray. And what that's going to do is if you get trapped in the car, you can break the glass. If the car is moving, I understand you're probably not going to jump out the window of a moving vehicle going 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, but you can potentially yell at other drivers and other people, attract some attention, and maybe get some help that way. Now, like I said before, there's a common thing in all the other videos where you want to confirm it's the driver, and absolutely that is probably the most important thing that you want to do, and you're doing this before you get in the vehicle. You want to confirm that that's the driver that's supposed to pick you up. Uber even has this on their website telling you what to do. You want to confirm the make and model of the vehicle. You want to confirm the license plate, and they're going to send you a picture of that driver. You want to make sure that picture matches the driver. There's no exceptions. Hey, this is my brother's car, I'm driving for him. No good. Different make and model, no good. If you don't know what that car looks like, you want to do a Google image search. You do not want to end up in the wrong car. Obviously, if somebody's posing as an Uber or Lyft driver, they aren't doing this for a good reason. One of the guys in one of the videos said that, I was in a situation and I went to get in and the license plate didn't match. So they showed me the registration and how it was new and they just didn't get the plates yet. Well, this is their profession, and I'm sorry, there's no excuses. I'm an amateur Photoshop guy, but I could fake a registration just to show somebody like that. That's a situation where you don't want to get in. Don't trust it. Make sure everything matches. If it doesn't match, no dice. Now, when you approach the vehicle, you want to approach from the rear passenger side, farthest from the driver as possible. You do want to look out behind you to make sure there's not third parties coming up to push you into the vehicle for a worst case human trafficking scenario. And you don't tell them your name. You walk up, you say, what is your name and who are you here to pick up? The name needs to match, and they need to know your name or your nickname. Now, if I used, some nickname and they come up and say, I'm here to pick up Mark, then, well, how do you know I'm Mark? I use this nickname. So again, that's a situation where I'm not going to get into the vehicle. Now, when you get into the vehicle, first things first, trust your gut, your sixth sense, your intuition, your spidey sense. I gotta tell you, I believe 100% that the sixth sense is real, and it's not really metaphysical or anything. I believe it's an accumulation of knowledge that we have collected through our lives that we've just stored in our subconscious. We don't need to be trained by the FBI or read some book on lie detection to know that somebody's full of it. I mean, we've all been lied to. We've all had to deal with people like that in our lives. And, we subconsciously pick up on those cues and on those signs. And sometimes our gut's telling us, this is not a good situation. In self-defense practice in general, you listen to your gut, you follow your gut, don't make exceptions, it's not worth it. So when you get in the vehicle, there's a lot of debate on where you should sit, and we'll get there in a minute. But if you go in the back seat, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that those child locks aren't activated. If you get in the back seat, the child lock's activated, and the window locks are on, and you don't have your window breaker, you're pretty stuck. Now, again, no excuses. You go to get into the back seat with the nature of the world we live in and what these drivers are exposed to, there's no excuse for them to have the child locks on. Oh, I was just driving a kid, or I was just driving, my nephew or my niece or something like that. That's not good enough for me. If they were, once they drop that person off, they're going to get out of the vehicle, and you're going to make sure everything is how it's supposed to be in the back, and you're going to turn those locks off. That's part of the job, and again, it's not worth your life. Again, you can get in the back seat if it's weather permitted. Go to put the window down. If the window locks are on, ask them to turn them off. Put the window down. Drive with the window down if you can. So now, where you sit in the car, that can matter too. There's positive and negatives of each situation. From the front seat, the negative would be it's easy to control you with a knife or a firearm. It can be pretty inconspicuous, and it's going to be pointed right at you. But at the same time, you can see their hands, you can see the GPS that they're following, you can see their cell phone, you can see what's going on from that perspective. There is also no child locks in the front, but if you checked them before you got in, that really shouldn't matter as much. You can see odd behaviors like them reaching over and maybe locking the windows, child locking the windows. From the back passenger side, it's very easy for a driver to turn around and get to the person in the back passenger side. You're not as safe as you think there. It's a pretty short distance. Now, the positive of being on either of the passenger sides is if you jump out of the vehicle, you are hopefully close to a sidewalk and you're less likely to jump out into traffic. At the same time, if it's a 4-lane road, we'll say, they're probably going to want to stay in the left lane if they're trying to take you somewhere knowing that you're less likely to jump out in the traffic. Behind the driver is not too bad. You can't see their hands, but then again, they can't see you. They can't see what you're up to and what you're doing. So you want to think about each of these situations. Maybe what area you're in is going to matter if you're taking country roads or if you're in the city. Okay, off we go. We decided that it's safe to take the ride. Everything checks out, and now we're going. Some things you can do once you're in the car is, if you know the area, you pick the route. You want to pick a safe route that you're familiar with, and this way you can tell if they're going. Very easily tell if they're going in a different direction. If you know a lot of shortcuts, if they happen to be across the river and through the woods, you don't really want to take those shortcuts because you don't want to be alone. You want to be in more populated areas, especially if it's late at night. Now, if you don't know where you're going, you want to put that GPS, you want to put that address in your phone as well, and you want to follow that route. So if they start to get off route and redirecting, you're following that, and you can make a decision on whether this is making sense or not, all the different routes that they're taking. In general, you want to stay off your phone. You can kind of subtly be on it. Maybe you're just scrolling a bit, but always be aware of what's going on in the vehicle. Always be aware of what's happening. Don't get absorbed in some article or in Facebook, just scrolling, or you just don't want to do that. You want to stay aware at all times. Do not accept food or drink from a person. It's very easy to drug people these days. There's a lot of substances out there. They come in a lot of different forms. So if they offer you some candy or they offer you some bottled water, you don't want to accept it. Just say thank you. I'm fine. Be careful what you reveal in small talk. Small talk starts with the weather, and the next thing you know, you're talking about the news and this and that. It's spider webs, and before you know it, they know you live in this apartment complex alone. You work second shift every other weekend. You have a small dog and 2 fish. So that's a lot of information about you, coupled with your last name and obviously the areas that you're in. So you got to be really careful with small talk. You don't want to go there. Keep the conversations about things like music or I guess even politics, but just things that aren't going to tell them important information about you. And the last thing is you definitely want to set boundaries quick if you feel the need to. If that driver, if you're a young lady in the car and that driver starts flirting with you or anything like that, listen, it's no different than working at a company in a big business. It's inappropriate, it's unprofessional, and you want to set that boundary right away. And with setting these boundaries and not letting the person cross them under any circumstance, what this does is it lets them know that you're not an easy target and you're not taking their crap. So, Maybe this isn't abduction or human trafficking, maybe you're a potential sexual assault victim, or maybe they're just some creep who doesn't know how to act, but you want to set those boundaries and stick to them. It's going to help the situation, and it's going to make you out to be somebody that they're less likely to want to mess with. So this last part is what do you do if you smell trouble, you're in the vehicle? For one, Uber and Lyft both have 911 features built into the app. So if you go in and you tap the feature, it sends it out to the police. You have your GPS on, and they start tracking you, and they should be coming to you right away. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to report anything. You're letting them know that you're in trouble, and then they're going to come. The other thing, like I said before, is if you have a self-defense weapon, you want to carry it, you want to have it ready, you want to have it accessible, and you want to consider the fact that you're in a vehicle. Everything changes when you're in a small confined space and you're sitting down, so always be wary of that. Whether or not you have your seatbelt on is going to determine how well you can defend yourself or get away. That's a bit of a safety trade-off. It's a decision that you have to make. And you also don't want to be a dead giveaway once you do smell trouble. Say they picked you up from the bar, it's 2:30 in the morning, you're not liking this ride, you can ask them, hey man, I'm starting to feel kind of sick. Can you pull over? I'll tip you. Just pull over. I don't want to get this all over your car. I don't want to puke in your car. I actually get car sick in the back without drinking. So, if they resist this and they don't want to pull over, that's going to tip you off. There's definitely something wrong here, and we can take some other steps. Another thing, if it's daytime, just say, hey, can you pull over at the gas station? I need to get something. Again, offer them a tip. And if they resist, that's going to tell you more about it. It's going to clue you in that you need to take further action. As far as some of the ways to defend yourself inside of a vehicle, we do cover those in class. It takes a little bit of time to get there. That's what I have is a level 3 curriculum. But there are ways to handle that, and as of right now, we're not going to do that in a video. But if you take all these other precautions, the likelihood of something happening to you is very, very slim. So think about these things, stay on top of it. I know that we're in a rush all the time, and we want to get from point A to point B, and everything's right here in our phones and in our fingertips, and we can just quick tap, and then before you know it, we're going from this place to that place. But you really want to not get caught up in that too much, and you want to think about your safety. Who cares if you're late for work? Who cares if you're late for the meeting? Who cares if you're late for your date, your doctor's appointment? It doesn't matter. Put your safety first. If you think something is wrong, don't take the ride. So thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, as usual, send them my way in whatever form that you can do that. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is. Definitely want to hear it. Definitely want to hear feedback. I hope to see you in class. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.